Yes, guys, welcome back to Chasing Green Arrows. It is Tuesday. We're going slightly earlier than normal to do Big Man's team selection. If you're watching on Catch Up, and so many of you are, then stay tuned because the next hour we're going to be talking about some key players that are on the tip of everyone's tongue. Mateus Cunha, we're going to talk Dango. We got loads. So we're going to talk Semenyo as well. And we're going to talk assistant manager chip strategy, and all with the former world number 4. He finished the season number 4. This isn't like a mid-game week rank. All the way back, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Big man Backer, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you.
Hello, Johnny. Hello, welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Thanks for having me. I think I actually could do with a bit of your advice this week. I have a lot of flags in my team. I mean, NDI, Konza, João Pedro is next to useless. I also have Eze, who's a bit of an injury concern, and I have Slot as well, who's again I think a kind of surplus to requirements. So I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding mine as well.
Wow, yeah, you have got some big decisions. I mean, your team was full of flags already and a few doubts. What did you do in the end? What transfers did you make going into, obviously, the double for Villa and Liverpool? Did you go Watkins in for Isak? Is that my internet or Bigman's? Let us know in the chat. No, it's Bigman's. It's just me, guys, which is bad because I've got a screaming child behind me. So it's difficult to mute my mic when I'm not talking to someone. I can mute between chats. So you might have to hear some babies crying. So hey, team, look, we're going to do Big Man's team today. This is worth hanging around for because one, he's having a good season. 2, he's got big decisions to make. And 3, he's looking at players of big interest, like Michael Saville's in the chat right now. I know Sav is looking at Cunha. I know loads of you will be looking at Cunha. Well, so is Big Man. So we're going to be talking about Cunha. We're obviously going to be talking about midfield buys as well. Big Man still doesn't have a Bournemouth midfielder. Now, the weekend just gone showed us a few things about Bournemouth midfielders. One, they're all good. Semenyo, Kluivert, and Dango, and Christie, and Tavernier all returning. But more importantly, I think it helped us rank them. Now, I went into the game week saying I think Dango was the best Bournemouth mid to buy, and I don't think anything has changed. But look, we'll get to that in a second. Big Man, you're back with us. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, sorry, Johnny. There's some problem with the connection. Yeah. What were you asking? I missed it.
Oh, John, I can't remember. Oh, your moves going into the game week. You sold Isak for Watkins, did you?
I did. And I was close to selling Eze for Dango or Trossard, but I decided against it because I only had 2 free transfers. And I thought that, if I use both my free transfers, then that would limit my flexibility this week. So I didn't exactly want to exhaust all my free transfers. This week I have 2, but in a way I sort of regret not selling Eze because I'm sort of sitting here again with a very similar dilemma. And now with the number of flags in my team, for example, I might have to move João Pedro, Eze, or the assistant manager. I'm still sort of thinking which transfer to prioritize. So it is a very tough situation for me. And I think a lot will come down to my assessment of X minutes. So there was this quote on Eze. Did you see the quote on Eze from Glasner where he mentioned that he hasn't exactly had a lot of training sessions in the past month, and he isn't in the best of shapes, which is why he didn't start. But then he said that he came on and he helped the team. Yeah, and I mean those quotes weren't encouraging as an Eze owner. And I'm sort of sitting here. I would have thought that he'd probably start Fulham, but those quotes have sort of made me reconsider again because I really can't afford him to be benched at this point. So I sort of have to figure out which moves to prioritize.
Yeah, because of course you're probably looking at a move on assistant manager as well. I mean, should we start the show with the assistant manager chat and then talk about the individuals? I feel like the assistant manager is a transfer many will be making. If you're on Emery, you'll be making. If you're on Slot, I think you'll be making. I mean, you are on Slot, Big Man. So let's do assistant manager chat and we'll run through some fixtures first. But just let's give a recap on Emery and Slot in general, and then we'll look at maybe managers we can target.
So firstly, I'm glad that, over the past 2 game weeks, the variance has sort of evened out between the 2 assistant managers. We saw the David Moyes owners get a bit of a lead in the first game week, and now the Slot owners have sort of bounced back because Aston Villa and Liverpool won. I think it will eventually come down to what happens in the Villa-Liverpool game tomorrow. But either way, I don't think the variance will be as big. I which feels and sits right with me. I think the triple captains have won. I think there's no debate about that, especially because now they're going to get back-to-back game weeks in 31 and 32 as well, back-to-back double game weeks. Um, but at this point in time, I do ideally want to move on slot, but I don't think I will have the luxury to do so. And I
Right.
believe a lot of people are in a similar position with not many free transfers at their disposal.
You're right, but because I'm the same, right? I know if I'm not free hitting in 29, I've got to use lots of free transfers. And I don't really want to use one on a manager. But I also know that assistant manager on any given week, even when the manager has one fixture, which is what we're faced with 26, I know the upside is still massive. I know if I punt on a bonus manager, I could be in for a 20-pointer. That's worth way more than the one transfer on a good player. So I feel like it has to be a priority. Now, if you own slot, I think it should still be a priority because I think going to City, the way City just played, I would move on that. Like you could go to an Arteta and play safe, or you can look at a Iraola or a Herzler. I mean, let's just look at some of the fixtures that give us bonus potential in the assistant manager category. Obviously, if you're on Emery, I think you should also move. Like Chelsea at home is fine, but I saw this Focal tweeted this. These are the fixtures other than the Fulham Palace fixture, which isn't locked yet. And the reason it's not locked in terms of table position is Aston Villa could go and beat Liverpool, and that would affect Palace being able to get bonus. But let's assume Villa don't beat Liverpool on Wednesday night. That Palace fixture jumps out for me as a bit of a coin toss. The others, sure, Leicester, West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich, Southampton, they're all massive underdogs. Palace Fulham feels like a 50-50 that I'm willing to probably chuck my name into the hat there. Like I'd go, yeah, I'd give it Glasner, might get a bonus, or I play safe with a Herzler, or I play safe with an Iraola. But I think both McKenna for Ipswich, but certainly even more so Glasner for Palace, have that bonus potential. What do you reckon?
I would actually, I mean, just for the sake of making it easy for the listeners, let's just rank our favorite assistant managers from one to let's say top three, right?
Yeah.
I do think that Arteta is the safest, and let's say if I have the funds to make the transfer, I think slot to Arteta will work well. But then again, it depends on some of my other moves. If I, for example, decide to upgrade Rodgers to someone like Trossard, I might not necessarily have the funds to do it. But I think, irrespective of that, if I was to pick one, I think Arteta is the safest, and he is exactly the kind of manager I would generally, let's say, I would generally go to as my default in especially in the game week where a lot of the other managers aren't exactly the most appealing. I do think some of these results can make things pretty swingy. For example, Ipswich versus Spurs is a fixture which I don't mind McKenna at all. I mean, this is a fixture I hadn't initially looked at, but now that Spurs have won against United and Ipswich do have the bonus in hand, I think this could be a really good fixture. I don't mind it. Then again, I can't bring myself to trust Van Nistelrooy, even though when you look at the data, and generally I tend to go by the data. If you look at the data, the win probability, etc., Van Nistelrooy is, you look at the models, etc., Van Nistelrooy is expected to score more or less similar points to Arteta, and out of the cheap managers, it's according to the bookies' odds and the models.
It's mad,
right?
The Leicester home. It shows how home advantage can play a part, doesn't it? And Brentford's away
It is.
hasn't been the best this season, but of late it's been fine.
Brent, this is it, right? Because when you look at like a longer sample size, let's say last 2 seasons, Brentford's away form is really bad. Like it's really not good enough. Even against some of the promoted sides, they've generally not been that great. I mean, they've beaten Southampton this season, I know, convincingly, but over a large sample size, they tend not to do as well away from home. But then you can provide the counter argument. They've done well against Southampton. They won against West Ham last week, which game was a huge surprise because I was expecting West Ham to win that game actually. But this is exactly why this is a hard fixture to trust. You get me, right? Because you don't exactly know which way it's going to go. I mean, people will look at Wissa, for example, and they'll say this is a fantastic fixture.
Yeah. I think it's proper tricky for the assistant manager.
Exactly.
But I do think if you've got Slot or Emery, you use a transfer on it. And the one, I mean, let us know in the chat what you're thinking, or drop a comment below if you're watching on catch up. I think McKenna and Glasner are the two that jump out to me. Like in a week where there's uncertainty anyway, why give yourself the ceiling of 10 where you can get a ceiling of 20? And I don't think a huge amount changes in terms of like potential upside and chances. Like, did we see enough from Spurs against Man United to suggest they've turned a corner? Probably not. McKenna at home, like they haven't been great, but I always think they play well. Could they nick a win? Or Glasner, like, are you tempted on Glasner or McKenna? That's, I guess, my main question to you. Because I think if I'm ranking them, my safest is Herzler. I even prefer Herzler to Arteta. Like, I think Herzler is just, I cannot see how Southampton get anything from that game. Also, we got to remember, you're awarded for clean sheets and for goals. And I feel like Brighton Southampton could be a 4-0 win. And therefore, that's an additional 6 points. But yeah, let's go back to Palace and Ipswich as two potential upsets.
Don't you think the Brighton team is flaky though? I mean, I know it's Southampton, but I mean, Brighton do striking is the kind of team which are very flaky. You look at recent results. They've done all right against Chelsea in the past 2 games.
Yeah, FA Cup and Premier League, they're united.
But before that, they weren't doing.
Yeah, before that they went to Forest and lost 7-0.
They had a really lead spell. Yeah. Exactly. So the striking is the kind of team which are really difficult to predict. And with the table bonus not in play, would I really want to go there? That's the question I'm asking myself. Is it that certain of a sure shot result? I mean, it should be on paper, but
it's
looking
still
at how flaky Brighton have been, I'm not entirely sure.
Palace, though.
And then again, you mentioned Palace. Yeah, I'm coming to Palace. I assume this table bonus for Palace will only come into play if Aston Villa lose to Liverpool. Is that correct?
Is it Aston Villa lose or win? I can't remember.
Oh, sorry, Aston Villa win. Aston Villa win.
If Aston Villa win, hang on, I need to check the table.
Aston Villa are 9th, Fulham are 8th, right?
Yeah.
I think it's Aston Villa lose actually, because if Fulham are 8th. So if Aston Villa lose, they'll be 4 places above Palace, and Fulham will be 6 places above Palace. Yeah. So I think it will only come into play if Aston Villa lose against Liverpool. If you look at the table.
And yeah. So Aston Villa need to lose, right? Which is likely.
Aston Villa need to lose, exactly. And even if they draw, I think the table bonus will still be in play because they have an inferior goal difference to Fulham.
I'm just looking at that. Yeah. So Aston Villa are on 38, Fulham are on 39. So if they draw, they'll be tied on 39. But goal difference is considerably in Fulham's favour. And in the result of a draw, we know that goal difference doesn't change. It's 5 or -3. So Aston Villa, if they,
it's basically if Aston Villa don't win against Liverpool, we'll exactly. Aston Villa have to win, right?
If Aston Villa do win, the table bonus is off for Fulham,
exactly,
for Glasner. But yeah, if Aston Villa win, I'll be so happy because I've got Emery that I'll probably be up for playing safe. But if Aston Villa lose, I'll feel like I'm chasing, and therefore I want the punt on Emery. So that is on Glasner. So that works quite well. So look, it's likely that Villa won't get the victory versus Liverpool, and Palace Fulham will be an option in 24 hours' time. If it is, are you interested?
I rate Fulham at home. I genuinely do, and I know
that, didn't we? Dean didn't, but we said Dean you expect it. You do that when it's your own team, but we said Fulham versus Forest was perfect for table bonus. We liked that.
Yeah, but the only thing is that Crystal Palace's away record this season is very encouraging. They have a really stellar away record, which is why a lot of people are interested in this fixture.
That's rare for them. Again, usually, by the way, they're not great away. They're very good at home.
Again, this seems like a potential banana skin, and I'm not entirely sure. I think this is a game which could go either way. Even if you look at the bookmakers' odds, they don't exactly have a clear favorite.
But the fact it's a coin toss, West Ham or Wolves or Southampton winning isn't a coin toss. It feels like a formality. They'll lose the football match. Palace feels like one where it's up for grabs. I think I'll end up going there. I mean, what about McKenna? Do you feel if you were ranking McKenna and
Glasner? That's what I was going to come to. That's what I was going to come to. I think I slightly favor McKenna, actually. I don't
Home
know. I
advantage.
mean, I'm not reading too much into Spurs' result against Man United, honestly,
I
because Man
know
United
it's
aren't.
tough that one to read into because it's
Exactly.
United.
I won't be surprised if Ipswich did well against Spurs. Like, this is a fixture which, I mean, I have more confidence in Ipswich, let's say, winning or drawing against Spurs than I have in Palace winning or drawing against Fulham. Let me put it that way.
Wow, I don't think, but I hear you. It's a tough one to call that. Ipswich have looked better, like against Villa. Yeah, they got the draw, but I think it was 25 shots to 3. Like it was how Emery and Villa didn't get big points. Like it was they
It was
annihilated them.
the keeper. It was a
He was
world
amazing.
class
Yeah,
performance from the keeper.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And Spurs,
I just
speaking of
think
keepers, have got Vicario back, and Vicario back for Spurs is big.
it's big, but like they tend to concede so many chances anyway that they're not going to keep a clean sheet either way. This is going to be a high scoring game.
Spurs have one eye on Man City next, says Steve.
But
Do they?
but will they? I think Postecoglou is in that kind of situation where every game is pretty much a one must-win game for him. I
Yeah,
mean, I won't read personally too much into this.
yeah. No, I
It
wouldn't.
depends on what narrative you build, right? So I think this is that kind of a week where a lot of different assistant managers are viable, and it comes down to your own subjective assessment. A lot of people will build their own narrative, and that's fine because when there is no obvious opinion, it's fine to do that. I mean, for example, you seem fairly confident on Glasner. He's a perfectly good option. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not confident on Glasner, but I'm
But
confident. I'll end up going Glasner or McKenna. I'm going for a table bonus.
but
There's at my
but then
rank.
again, but then again, Johnny, this is something we did touch upon like 2 or 3 game weeks ago, when the double game weeks were announced. We did say that 26 was going to be a very tricky week to play the
True.
assistant managership, and
Yeah.
as you can see from our discussion, both of us
No.
don't really necessarily like someone in this bracket, and it just feels like a shot in the dark. It
Yeah.
isn't convincing at all. So yeah, it will come down to very fine margins, I guess.
Yeah, we're spinning the roulette wheel on this. Okay, so as things stand, as things stand, I'm on Glasner, but there's every chance I don't go there. Like it's still too early. But as things stand, who's the one manager you're likely to go to? Is it stay on slot or is it make a move? And if so, who to?
I think it's really difficult for me to actually say which manager I will move to because, as I mentioned, really it depends on my budget. For example, if I'm selling Rogers, if I'm selling Eze, then I might not necessarily have the funds to go for someone like an Arteta, right? So it comes down to what I have eventually. I would ideally want to use a transfer on the system manager. I think I probably will use it, but again, if let's say if I don't think the João Pedro will start, if I don't think the Eze will start, I think my team might take priority, and I might just stay with Slot in that case because it's not as if a lot of managers are convincing me anyway.
Yeah, okay, fair. All right, well, look, let's talk transfers. Big man, tell us some players you like. I mean, let's start with Cunha, because Cunha has been awesome in the last couple of games. The goal against Liverpool was insane. But I think we've got an image just to show you what on Mateus Cunha. But just talk to us about why you like him, but also where he could potentially fit into your team. I mean, there's a lot of Gakpo owners out there that might be looking to sell. There's still people that are invested in a Jackson or a Havertz. If you're ranking the midfield, the mid-price forwards, Cunha's going to be right up there.
I think he will be, but then again, I think it depends on how much funds you have to go and get him. A lot of people are in this position where they don't exactly have the funds to get him. Having said that, I do think he strikes out as when you look at the fixtures for Wolves, they're actually really encouraging from now till probably the second time you decide a wild card. So he's just a really nice set and forget option. And if you notice, he's done really well for bonus this season. We look at his bonus points. Whenever he scores or gets any kind of attacking returns, there's every chance that he gets a share of the bonus. So I really like Cunha personally. I sadly don't think I will have the luxury to get him, but let's say if I did, I think I would probably go there hands down.
Yeah, I like Cunha. I think we've got. I'm just waiting to hear from our producer to see if we've got a graphic to show on Cunha. I think we have, but that's going to obviously determine what I'm saying. So I'm just waiting for that to come up on screen. But maybe there's some.
My question to you, Jani, is if you're buying a forward this week, would you rather get Wissa or would you rather get Cunha?
Cunha for me. I mean, Wissa has missed some big chances of late. He's also had goals disallowed, which never look good. The beauty of Cunha is when he gets a return, and this season, in every game he's had a return, there were 36 bonus points up for grabs in those games. He's got 30 bonus in those from a potential 36 in games he's returned. He's a bonus points monster. And with bonus, you're competing with your teammates. And the problem for Wissa is he's competing with, if Flecken keeps a clean sheet, he's on bonus. If Mbermo does anything, he's on bonus. Cunha is the bonus beast in that Wolves team. So as long as he gets a goal or an assist, and boy, does he get them, like his numbers are really good, straight away, it's almost like a lock for 2 or 3 bonus. So with that in mind, I really like Cunha as the talisman in that team. And therefore, I think I'd prioritise him over Wissa. Now, the fixtures read Bournemouth, Fulham, Everton up next, but then the run looks really, really tasty. So yeah, I'm here for it.
I think I agree with you. And one of the major reasons he tends to do really well for bonuses because he creates plenty of chances, which helps him accumulate those BPS at a very quick rate. I think that's the edge he has over Wissa, who's more of a goal threat as opposed to having that assist potential as well. So I think, yes, I would agree with you. There is a price difference there as well. We should mention there's like a 0.5 million price difference. But if you can afford Cunha, I think he's clearly the one to go for.
Yeah. I think so. Let us know in the chat who you fancy. And look, let's also discuss just Marmoush in this discussion. Because if you're buying a mid-price forward, there's a good chance you've got a Chris Wood, or you might have an Isak who's more expensive. But if we're ranking Mateta, Cunha, and Marmoush, how do we rank those three? I mean, we'll come away from the Cunha graphic now to speak Marmoush and Mateta, but let's just give them a couple of minutes each. I mean, Marmoush, proper good display. Are you still thinking it'll be Haaland for you, or do you think you could shoehorn Marmoush in and save half the amount of money?
I mean, Haaland is still the best player in that team to get, in my opinion, personally. But this performance from Marmoush against Newcastle has clearly gotten a lot of eyebrows for the right reasons as well.
Yeah.
I think I will get Haaland in 29. It'll just be a case of whether or not I decide to double up with Marmoush. And I think I will probably decide closer to the time, depending on how X-Men's look for City players. I am not interested in Mateta personally at all because I don't think I will be free hitting in 29. So buying a Palace player at this point in time just feels very suboptimal for me. But I guess if someone is on the free hit 29 strategy, then getting someone like a Mateta is fine. But would you go there? I do sort of get the feeling that some of Palace's fixtures, some of their best fixtures, are kind of behind them.
Do you? Yeah. I mean, they're still very good though, aren't they?
They're all right. I mean, this week it's a tough fixture. I wouldn't call Fulham a good fixture. Then it's Arsenal at home. Ipswich. There's the blank in 29. Yeah, I guess the fixtures are all right actually. I missed the Southampton fixture as well.
Yeah, so I like them. I mean, it's for you. Yeah, we'll speak about Eze later. But yeah, I like the fixtures. And again, a bit like Cunha, you do feel like the talisman is straight away Mateta. And by the way, just to mention, when Eze and Mateta are on the pitch together, we're thinking it's Mateta on pens, right?
I would assume so. But let's say if Eze wins the pen, then Eze might step up to take it. I think it's that kind of situation where
it's not
I think that I think it isn't, let's say, close to a 80% chance that Mateta will be on pens. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I must admit, I really like Mateta. I can't see a way of buying him. I do also like Marmoush. I, of course, want to prioritise Haaland if and when I can, but money is always our enemy in this game, and Marmoush is so cheap. And if he gets 4 shots a game, and 3 of them, he had 4 shots, 3 went in, but that won't happen every week. But he's clearly first choice. And under Pep, since he's been at the club, he has started every game. Other than the first
Johnny,
leg of the Champions League.
I think a lot of this comes down to whether or not you're prepared to sell Salah in 29. Because if you're prepared to sell Salah in 29, then funding Haaland shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Okay. So how are we ranking those 3? Cunha 1 for me. I'm going to say Mateta 2, Marmoush 3 at the moment.
Yeah, I think Cunha is first for me as well. I would actually have Wissa in the conversation. I'd probably have him above Mateta personally. I think Cunha, Marmoush, Wissa.
Nice, fair, yeah. Yeah, Wissa does deserve our respect. Like the underlying numbers are there. The output the last few weeks, you see 2 pointers and go, is he not playing that well? He's playing really well. And Brentford are creating chances. And he had 2 goals. Was it 2 goals disallowed at the weekend? I think it might have been. So yeah, let us know in the chat or drop a comment below who you like out of all those mid-price options. Let's just talk a little bit about midfielders and then Bigman. Let's see your team. So got a couple of midfielder graphics to show you. One of them is Dango Atara. You didn't buy a full did you? You still haven't got a Bournemouth mid, so that'll feel like a priority for you, will it?
I sort of got away with it because none of them really hold, but I really like the Bournemouth mids, and I've said this for a long, long time. It was just that I wanted to give myself another week of information. I wanted to see whether I wanted to get Otara, Semenyo, even Trossard or Nwanieri. I think they're in the conversation as well because they fall in a very similar bracket. And I did think that Eze would start actually at the weekend, given Glasner's comments. I mean, no one expected Eze to get benched. I think that was sort of out of the blue.
Yeah.
But now I fear that might happen. So I think, okay, let me put it straight. I think out of the Bournemouth, I prefer Otara because of his price and his position. I think if I'm buying a Bournemouth, that I'd get Otara. From the Arsenal mids, I think Nwanieri is a good option. Trossard is a good option. Do you think Merino comes in the picture? He had a really good cameo as the number 9. Would you trust his minutes?
I don't think it's very different coming off the bench to grab something and play 13 minutes and get 2 goals as a midfielder that's never played up front. Not since he was 8 years old as he played up front. He said this post-match. To start a football match in the Premier League and play 80 or 70 minutes up there is very different. Arteta has said he'd sort of Calafiori and Merino, even Saliba was mentioned as someone that they could chuck up front. What we know with Arteta, he wants a presence up there. He doesn't ideally want a Sterling or a Trossard false 9. He likes a Kai Havertz up there, a big focal point, as someone that can hold the ball up, bring others into play. GW26 isn't big, but he does that quite well. So Merino fits that mold, if you like, in terms of physical skill set. I just don't think we see it long-term moving forward. I think we'll still see Trossard or Sterling getting the minutes as the 9, but it might become a bit more route one late in games when they need to nick a goal. Do I think Merino is someone we can buy? No, I really don't. And actually, I would argue that even if he does play up front, Arsenal aren't going to score enough goals. It took them 81 minutes to score against Leicester.
I agree completely. My question to you is: do you think that Trossard will continue as the 9 and for the majority of the games, though? Because if he does, I have more interest in him personally if he's playing closer to goal.
I mean, we've seen it before. It's not just with this injury crisis. Even at times when we've had GW26 fit, Trossard was getting the nod at times last year as the number 9. So Arteta sees him as someone that can play there, and he was bought from Brighton with that in mind. It was he can play left, he can play down the middle. I think Trossard will continue to stay down in the middle, and unless they need a plan B, and the plan B will be hit it long to a lump. So Trossard's not a bad buy. And look, that's what you've done. By not buying a Bournemouth midfielder, you've given yourself an extra week to go, maybe it's not a Bournemouth mid, maybe I can go Trossard. I still think the Bournemouth mids are considerably better than the Arsenal midfield options because I think Bournemouth will score loads more goals than Arsenal. I just think without Saka, without Martinelli, without Havertz and Jesus, they are lacking firepower. And it took them 81 minutes to score against Leicester, and that's slightly concerning.
I think I agree with you to quite a large extent. You haven't mentioned Nwanieri either. So I want to hear your thoughts. Yeah. Now, there's a difference between getting someone, okay, I guess you don't like Trossard because Arsenal don't score a lot of goals at his price. I think it's 6.3 million. He's obviously more expensive than Nwanieri. But when you're getting an Arsenal mid for like 4.5, 4.6 million, I think the conversation is completely different because then your expectations change.
It's fair. And he's so cheap. I don't like the Nwanieri pick because I still think spend 0.6 more and get a Dango. But I completely understand why people are looking at Nwanieri because unlike Trossard and Merino, he is bottom base bargain basement barrel price. Like it's 4.5 million. And he's starting football matches. He's scored in the last 2. I just feel like it's a transfer out waiting to happen. He's not going to be in the team long. Even if he plays well, he ain't going to be in the team long.
I think he's played well enough to play for a while. Don't you think so?
Yeah, but I'm talking like if Saka and Martinelli are back, like that's straight above him in the pecking order. Trossard too.
Will they be rushed immediately? Is what I'm trying to answer. Yeah. For example, a lot of people will be wildcarding in game week 31. Do you think Nwanieri could be fired till then? I think there's a chance he is.
True.
I
If
think
you
there's a
booked
good
him that
chance,
wild
actually, if I
card,
was
I
to
think
guess.
he's definitely fine to the blank in 29, 30, and then there's like an international break, isn't there? So yeah, I think if you've booked in a wild card for 31, you can go Nwanieri. I go
Exactly.
back to Arsenal firepower. I don't feel it, and I don't think their fixtures are explosive enough to go. Yeah, we need an Arsenal attacker.
I think the fixture this week is great, but after this week, it does become, sort of underwhelming. I want to hear your thoughts about a Chelsea attacker, though. I mean, Chelsea haven't really played that well in recent weeks, I know. This week it's Aston Villa away. Now I know Aston Villa, they're obviously a very good team, but then again they have an insane number of injuries in their defense. Kamara got injured, Konza is injured, Pau Torres is not there. I would expect Chelsea to score easily in this fixture. Then they have Southampton at home and Leicester at home. I am very intrigued to hear your thoughts as a Chelsea fan about a Chelsea attacker, because the fixtures look primed for returns.
Oh, the fixtures are there, but the fixtures were there for all of December, and that was off the back of good form. And I went Enzo, Jackson, Palmer as a Chelsea triple up, and boy did it sting me. Chelsea didn't score goals in good fixtures, and just because they've got a couple of good ones coming up doesn't mean now they will. Now Palmer, I think, is enough. I don't think RB, and it is a huge gamble. If Jackson was fit, maybe you could go there, but the Southampton Leicester game is like there's one's a weekend, one's a midweek. Straight away you go, there'll be rotation because that's what Maresca does in the week. And then I look at like Nkunku. If he was playing as the number 9, maybe we could go there. But again, we saw Palmer playing as the 9. Like, I do not like Chelsea attackers one bit. Even the wide men, Madueke, Neto, Sancho. It's always 2 from 3. You can't guarantee who's going to start. I would be swerving all Chelsea players other than Cole Palmer, who I don't even know if I'd be buying Cole Palmer. I certainly wouldn't sell him. People are selling him. I think it's a bad move. But Chelsea are a non-event at the minute for me, even with good fixtures. They're playing so badly. I fancy Villa to probably beat us. I say that. I'm going to be selling Emery, but Chelsea are bad.
I don't really care which team the attacker plays for, as long as he's Southampton and Leicester in back-to-back game weeks.
Yeah,
I'm willing to roll the dice.
What you think?
If, for example, the thing with Nkunku is always the X minutes, and I think I've been scarred by him by owning him early in the season when I got
the price drop.
Read of him totally wrong as well. I'm not sure whether you owned him at the start. I assumed you did.
I did. Yeah.
Yes,
like you, I think I held him a week or two. I didn't hold him as long as you, but I held him too long. I had some price drops. I do think if I'm picking another Chelsea attacker, if I was to put my neck on the line for Leicester and Southampton, it would be Nkunku. He has to start because Jackson's out. Even though he ain't starting as the 9, I'd be. He'll probably go in the summer, but if he goes in the summer and he isn't given games like Southampton and Leicester when Jackson's injured, it's going to be a real issue for Maresca. Like, I'd be shocked if he doesn't start those games if Jackson is out, and I think Jackson's ruled out for both. Is he?
Yeah, that's correct. And even if he sort of is fine, I can't see a world where he starts immediately after coming back from injury, because judging by Maresca's comments, he will be cautious with him. If Nkunku plays 90 this week again, I think I would have a very hard time resisting him.
We might see Nkunku actually play up top. Like, it didn't work. Maresca's spoken about needing several options. In the Europa League, he plays up front and does perfectly fine. Mark Gue is also injured, has got some minutes there as the 9. But it was just last time out. Yeah, it didn't work. He played Palmer down the middle. It was rubbish. So yeah, let's watch. Give yourself another week to commit on Chelsea forwards. I get it. It doesn't matter how the form is. Leicester and Southampton are fixtures you can target. And if you've got a wild card, you've got an out of a Chelsea player too. So maybe I go back on my statement that you could consider a Chelsea attacker, but only Nkunku. The wide men I wouldn't go near.
Yeah, the thing is, I just need to be a bit more sure about his minutes, because whichever attacker I buy, sadly I am not in a position where I can buy an attacker and then sell him after 2 weeks. So I'll only buy him if I think he's going to be fine till game week. I need him till game week 30, because if I'm wildcarding in 31, I need someone for 4 weeks. And am I sure that Nkunku will stay in the team for 4 weeks and play regularly? That's the question I'm trying to get answered. And at this point in time, it's sort of hard to say.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back to that Bournemouth graphic and talk about the Bournemouth players, because I want to just rank the mids. We haven't got Kluivert on here. Do you see Semenyo and Dango as clearly a top 2 now? We saw Kluivert come off at the 75th minute. For minutes, it is Dango and Semenyo, and always has been since they've both been in the 11. Kluivert will suffer from early subs. Do you prefer these two to Kluivert?
I do, and I've said this in the previous week as well. It's purely because even though I love penalty takers, it's just because he gets subbed early. And I mean, generally, when you look at these kind of teams, you would expect them to make merry in the last 15-20 minutes. Whether or not if they're leading, they'll get more spaces to exploit on the break, etc. So I would always go for the guys who play the significant majority minutes, and I think Dango and Semenyo fit that bill perfectly. I don't think there's much to split between them, so I think I prefer Dango because he plays closer to goal and he's zero 0.6 million cheaper. But if anyone has Semenyo is a perfectly good option as well.
Yeah, okay.
Then again, I wanted to sort of ask, it will be interesting to see what happens when Evan Nilsson comes back because he's expected to be back around game week 29, game week 30.
Yeah.
So
Dango
it will be
could
interesting to see because
jump
this
straight
system has been
out.
working really well.
Dango could play the Clivert role. It might be Dango plays as almost like a second striker or slightly wider. Semenyo we know on the left-hand side is now, but then obviously there's that right-hand side up for grabs. At the moment it's Brooks,
Yeah.
but then Tavernier can
Yeah, I
come
was
on.
gonna
So
say.
then Dango could also move right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance that Otara plays on the left, Semenyo goes right, and Clivert plays behind Evan Nilsson when Evan Nilsson
That
comes
works
back.
too. I mean, if Dango's scoring goals, you can't drop him.
Exactly, and he's been scoring. He has, I think, 5 attacking returns in the previous 5 games. He's been scoring for fun. I would find it really hard to drop him given his performances personally.
On watching the game at the weekend. Like Semenyo had a really good run, should have scored. But you watch the game and you go, Dango is the best of the 3. I think he gets the XG falls his way at the moment. And Evan Nilsson, because he's been out for such a long time, when he does get a comeback, even if it is 29-30, we're going to see 2 cameos before we see a start, you would think. So you might be all right to a wild card. As the number 9.
I personally think he'll be fine till game week 30. I do.
Yeah.
And the fixtures are as good as they get. Even in game week 29, you get Brentford at home, and 30, you get Ipswich at home.
If Dango and Semenyo were the same price, I think I'd still buy Dango. That's how much I put him as number 1. How do you feel about him? Like you might be buying a Bournemouth mid this week. Do you like obviously money?
That's a
they
very
are
good
there is
question.
a difference in price. Does that affect your thinking?
I think it's a very good question. I think I would lean similarly towards you. Like I think my thinking aligns towards yours because he's getting the better quality of chances, right?
I think so. Like again at
the
the
main
weekend,
advantage of Semenyo a couple of weeks ago, or let's say 3 game weeks ago, was that he was the only Bournemouth mate who was getting 90 minutes. Now that Otara is getting similar and he's cheaper and he's playing closer to goal, I think there's a chance that he's probably better.
Yeah. I think I'm happy with that, Dango. I'm glad I went there. By the way, I do think you can buy a second Bournemouth mid. Like someone like Semenyo is genuinely of interest to me. Even the fixtures are still there to target. Like Wolves at home is good, Brighton away is also good, and then Spurs is good. Like, and then the run does continue. Bournemouth are brilliant. All right, mate. Let's see your team. I want to talk captaincy as well, so we got to squeeze that in. So let's get to your team and how you are set for game week 26. Struggling to keep up. You've got 1 free transfer, have you?
No, I have 2. As mentioned earlier, I saved a free transfer last week to have the flexibility of moving some of my players in my manager this week. Anyway, I don't think I'll be using a transfer on my defense. I think my defense looks fine. I mean, I won't be surprised if Everton won 2-0 against Man United, given the way Man United are playing, and given the way how Everton are playing. It's sort of that kind of fixture.
Yeah.
My main issues are in attack. Now, starting from Eze, given the comments from Glasner, I don't feel confident about his minutes. I'm going to wait till Friday. I'm going to see what he says again. If he's not positive about Eze, I think Eze will go for sure. And I'll either get Trossard or I'll either get Tango. I think those are the 2 options I'm looking at. Rogers is another point of concern for my team. I think we're sort of getting to the point now that we're getting closer to the blank. I think Rogers is sellable. And I assume a lot of people or managers who've bought him last week as well have bought him in with the intention of moving him on soon, especially if you're not free hitting in 29, like I intend not to.
Yeah.
Watkins is fine. I'll keep Watkins for the next 2-3 weeks before I possibly move him out for Haaland. That's the route I'm considering. I got away with selling Isak last week. I think that was that is really what
that might punish you this week, mate. That might punish you this week. Let's see. I'm captaining
It probably will. It probably will. But last week was it was basically the difference between a red and a green arrow. That transfer.
Fair play. The
João
points
Pedro,
were there straight away, and Watkins got 9, and he could have had, Watkins missed a sitter as
he
well.
got
And
8. He got 8.
he
That
dropped a
bonus
bonus,
point
didn't he?
it got taken away from him, but it's fine. He's probably going to get.
But we still got another
2
fixture,
more,
so
that'll
it'll
be
get
10.
more than 8.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that if, let's say, Villa beat Liverpool, at least I'll get some points from Watkins, even if not from Nwanieri. So
Yeah.
that's a bit of a hedge for me as well. Again, another concern is João Pedro. Now, I'm not sure whether he's going to start against Southampton. Again,
I'd be surprised.
I think the only hope I have is that he comes in for Welbeck, but it's sort of difficult to say at this point in time, and I would assume he doesn't as well because the Brighton attack has been functioning well in his
Hurtler loves
absence.
Welbeck.
See, this is the exact discussion we had the previous week as well, and we were skeptical about João Pedro starting.
Yeah, I said they've just beaten Chelsea. Why would they change the attack? And they did. They kept Rutter in the same João Pedro role. They played Welbeck down the middle, and of course Minter and Matoma on the flanks. That same front four played against Chelsea again, and that same front four, I think, if they're all fit, will play against Southampton.
See, that's the worry. That's the worry as well. So depending on if I have the funds, I will, in an ideal world, I'll probably move João Pedro on for Cunha, but I doubt that I will have the luxury. I really do.
One Brazilian to another.
Exactly. I actually think because I have Ndidi, I'll probably prioritize selling him over João Pedro as well. I don't think I'll sell João Pedro either way because Ndidi is more of a concern. There's a chance that João Pedro wins his place back at some point, but Ndidi is just out for a while. So
João Pedro will always get minutes too. 20 minutes versus Southampton, you might nick a goal,
So I've gone 10 minutes discussing about my problems in the team. If I am, let's say, in a position where I can sort of navigate all these problems with just one free transfer, then I might consider selling Slot for another assistant manager, which I really want to do. But let's see where we're at on Friday. I think on Friday, a lot will depend on Eze, João Pedro, these kind of players, and then I will be in a much better position to sort of confirm my transfers for the game week.
I think Eze, off the back of, I think he came on at half time and straight away was involved.
He played well.
I think Eze you keep. I know you've got to sell Eze for 29 anyway, but I think for the next couple, because don't they play Southampton before the blank? So you want him for that Southampton fixture. I know you can get money out of Eze, but I think, and BigMan will be back with us in a sec, he's just got a few connection issues. I think Eze can stay, but João Pedro is one that you look at and go, I bench him, but I'll probably keep because by 29 he can have his place back. But yeah, Ndidi, Konza, they're players you want to sell, but then they don't give you the money. How much money you got in the bank?
There's another caveat here. I have 1 million in the bank. There's another caveat here.
Go on.
I'm if I think Eze will be benched, there's no way I'll keep him. I think he's at that price at 6 million. If a guy is going to get benched, there's no way I can keep him personally. I mean, I would rather just keep João Pedro on my team than Eze if I think they both are not starting, because João Pedro is cheaper. And there's another caveat here, another curveball. I think if I sell Eze for an Arsenal mid, I'll probably captain the Arsenal mid. That's probably going to be Trossard, I think.
Love that. We've got
if I get Trossard, right?
Well, let's talk.
So that's where captaincy comes into play as well.
Yeah,
exactly. That's where captaincy comes into play as well. So I think I'm realistically going to captain either Mbeumo or Trossard. If I get Trossard, I might captain him, but it's going to be between those two. I don't think I'll captain Salah, but yeah, it sort of seems
I'm so glad you said
foolhardy
that,
at this point.
I so expected you to be on Captain Salah. I expect most of sort of well-known FPL accounts to Captain Salah. So I'm surprised. Is that a most looking outside the box? Am I just slow to this news, or are you just because you don't fancy Salah? I mean, I am probably captaining Isak.
I do fancy Salah. I just think this is a week, like you mentioned, like you're going Isak. I think this is a week where you can possibly bet against.
You can bet against the template or the obvious.
I think so. Yeah. I think he'll probably get close to 7-8 points. I don't think it'll be double digits personally, and that's why I think it's fine to punt on an Mbeumo or a Trossard if you feel like going there. I just think those teams can probably outscore Liverpool.
Yeah, and look, City, it was their best performance, arguably, of the season against Newcastle. And I know it's just a small sample, one game, but we did it in last night's show on Monday. Go back and watch it, guys, with Dean. But Nico Gonzalez and Gundogan as a double pivot, boy, did it work. Finally, the Rodri absence wasn't felt. And Nico Gonzalez is a massive part of that. Now, I'm not saying City are going to go and beat Liverpool, but it is at the Etihad. It's a shame because Liverpool don't have they do. They've got a midweek Premier League game, but I feel like City's Champions League game in the week will take a little bit more out of them. They play Real Madrid. But going into that game on Sunday, I don't think it will be a big scoreline either way. I don't see one team hammering the other. I can see fixtures of higher ceiling for players like Mbeumo, players like an Arsenal midfielder, players for me like Isak that I think have got a bigger ceiling maybe than Salah. Look, Salah's the best player in the game, but I don't see Liverpool smashing City up. I could see a world in which Newcastle do that to Forest or that Brentford do that to Leicester. So if I had a Mbeumo, I'd be tempted. I don't like the Arsenal mid-shout because I just have massive trust issues with Arsenal at the moment in terms of goals. But I think Mbeumo is a really cool captaincy shout. And I'm really happy with Isak. Like, I love the fact he blanked last time because no one's looking at him now. And against Fulham, Forest really struggled. Like, that was not a 2-1. It was a 2-1. It didn't look like a 2-1. If you look at the XG, if you look at the shot map, Fulham annihilated Forest. And I just wonder if Newcastle can do similar at home, Forest the away team. So, yeah, I think I'm set on Isak. But, yeah, big man, you like Mbeumo or an Arsenal mid. When you say Arsenal mid, you wouldn't captain Nwanieri, would you? Or would you?
No, I don't think I would.
Trossard. If you knew Trossard's the one.
Yeah, if I knew that Trossard was playing as a striker.
Yeah.
But I'm actually curious to hear, your thoughts on Isak captain, because I think it's fairly ballsy to captain Isak because all season we've spoken about how solid the Nottingham defense is and how good their underlines are. So for you to captain Isak on the basis of perhaps one poor Forest performance is very brave, for sure.
Yeah. It was honestly, it is all based off that one fixture against Fulham. I am big time going into that. I couldn't believe the shot map, the XG plot. I was shocked that Fulham was so dominant in that football match. And that was the game a lot of Fulham fans thought, including Dean, thought Forest would win that. I just think Newcastle to bounce back against a bad game in the week, last week against Man City. But on their day, when Newcastle are at home especially, Isak's the best striker in world football at the minute. Like, certainly in the Premier League. I feel like I can back him. I feel like on any given day he can go big. And the fact that he'll be a bit of a differential in terms of captaincy, or massive differential in terms of captaincy, I like that too. So I don't mind the matchup, and I really like Isak at home at St James's. So if I own Mbeumo,
I think Isak is a perfectly good captaincy option. He's fine. I want to touch a bit on Palmer as well. I think, given the Villa injuries, I think he's been overlooked as well. I know he's glad in recent weeks.
Chelsea are so bad.
I mean, every time I get a chance to sort of bet against Villa's defense, I would happily take it because I just don't rate the defense at all this season, especially in the absence of Pau Torres. I just think it's a good fixture for the attackers. I won't be surprised if Palmer gets like a 8 or 10 pointer this week. I think he's going under the radar personally.
Do you reckon? I like your Mbeumo shout very much.
I think, to be very honest, Johnny, I don't think there's a very clear standout here. I think Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah, Isak.
Standout, Salah.
Trossard even. I think all these guys are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Most will go Salah, of course, because of his form. But I think this is a week where, everyone I would rate on a more or less similar level. There is no clear standout.
Yeah. Which is why it's okay to have some fun with it and bet against and back your gut and go for an Mbeumo or an Isak against a Mo Salah.
All of this tells me, Johnny, that this is going to be a week of high variance, because we're going to see a variety of different captains. We're going to see a variety of different assistant managers as well. So that will make for a very interesting viewing. Then again, you have to hope that you end up on the right side of variance.
How do you feel about the Bournemouth mids as captaincy options? Wolves at home for a Dango owner, for example.
I was impressed with what I saw from Wolves at Anfield in the second half.
I've been impressed since the new manager's been in, to be fair.
Exactly. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think that's a fixture where you go for the captaincy. Wolves are a good team. Under the new manager, I doubt that Liverpool had a shot on target in the second half. I watched the second half and they completely dominated them. So if they can do that to Liverpool, they can, they at least have it in them to, give Bournemouth a good game. I think the Bournemouth mids will probably do well, but I don't necessarily look at this fixture and be scared of them as a non-owner because I don't think they have the same ceiling. For example, like they did against Southampton. Would you agree?
Yeah, okay. I think I'm with you there. I think I'm with you. Like I don't think I'm looking at Iraola for that reason. I like Bournemouth a lot, and I think they'll win. But Wolves are that sort of team, and they've got those sorts of players, Gomez in particular with Cunha, that can just turn up and do some damage. So yeah, okay. I think we're both fairly aligned on that then. So Bigman, yeah, you got some decisions to make. I don't know if I was you, I'd give yourself another week.
My team.
I'd give yourself another week on a lot of these moves. João Pedro, Eze, even Rodgers and Watkins, I think I'd keep. I think I'd just move the assistant manager and roll the transfer. No, I would want a Bournemouth mid. I'd want a Bournemouth mid if I was you. I'd probably sell Rodgers for a Bournemouth mid and the assistant manager move.
What if you don't think that Eze is starting? Then what would you do?
Sell Eze to Bournemouth mid.
Keep Rodgers.
But Eze will start, won't he? Why would Eze not start now? He's played 45. He looked good. It's a week on.
Manager said he's not in the best of conditions, right?
Yeah,
that's the issue.
I know. It's really strange that because he was very good under Glasner, like earlier in the season.
I mean, he did exactly mention that he mentioned that in the previous 4 weeks he's had very few training sessions, and he said that we have to be careful with him, which again is worrying. That's the issue.
Yeah.
With someone like Eze, and because you mentioned earlier that he's going to be a sell at some point anyway, so might as well sell him this week. True. I think I'm talking myself into selling Eze this week. I think I'm talking myself into selling Eze this week.
Yeah, I feel like you might be. It's worth noting as well, Bigman will get 1.5 million back into his team for his playing squad next week. So again, by rolling transfers and then being able to get to a Cunha next week, rather than settling for someone cheaper this week, will be on his mind and should be on your mind. Remember, that assistant manager slot goes back into your team, so you've got more budget. So if you can go into next week, if you're looking at like, oh, I want that player, but I can't afford him, next week you might be able to. So you might be able to roll into it. Guys, I want to take some questions for the last couple of minutes. I would love to ask you all a massive favour. We are 55 minutes into the show. And after 55 minutes, I think it's all right for the first time to ask for you to subscribe if you haven't already. So please do consider hitting that subscribe button if you're new around here. Now, loads of you watching on catch up will have never come across Chasing Green Arrows before. I would love you to hit that subscribe button. And please show your support in the chat and everyone by hitting the like. Really helps the algorithm. Do you do some questions, big man?
Let's go. Navadeep is asking, is it necessary to transfer Gakpo even for a hit? Now, Jani, I think you're in a better position to answer me because you own Gakpo yourself. What is your plan with Gakpo?
I need to see him in training. I think if I see him in training, I'll probably keep him for Man City. And I know I don't love the fixture, but after Man City, he's got a couple of games and I'm like, oh, it could be really differential to have him because everyone's going to have sold him by then.
Southampton at home is the one you're targeting, right?
Yeah, Southampton in 28. Now, he actually nearly went to Southampton a couple of years ago. They nearly bought him. But this was before he was brilliant at PSV. But Southampton were heavily in for him. I love the narrative there. And I do think the ceiling's good. Like, even Newcastle at home is fine. So if we see him in training ground pictures, and I think we will, and from what Slot says, he'll be available for Man City, I think I'll probably hold him.
That's fair. I personally think that, if I'm not sure about a start, I think I would sell him. Probably not for a hit, but for a free transfer, yes.
See, mine would be for a hit. I've only got one free, and I'm using it on my manager.
I don't think it's worth selling for a hit, personally. Terry's asking, so Dango or Matoma for Ahmad. I have Clivewood, by the way. We've already mentioned that we like the strategy of doubling up on the Bournemouth mid, so I would go with Dango over Matoma, personally. He's cheaper, he's playing closer to goal, he has the better underlying data, and the fixtures are sort of better as well. Bench one, Rodgers or Beto? I'll let you take this one. This is a tough one.
Beto plays Man United. I fancy him, I'd probably bench Rodgers.
And he's going to be on pens as well, right? So I'll bench Rodgers out of the two, in my opinion. Next question is from Jack. Should I sell Rodgers to Tell and then captain Mbomo? I think captaining Mbomo is perfectly fine. Selling Rodgers to Tell?
I prefer Bournemouth mids to Tell.
I think I would lean that way as well. Maybe even an Arsenal mid over him. Yes, Beto should be on pens because India isn't playing, right? So I would expect Beto to be on pens. Initially, Calvert-Lewin was on pens, then he got injured and was India. Now I would expect it to be better. Taylor is asking start Munoz or Robinson.
Oh, easy Munoz.
Suhail is asking who are your top picks for AM next week then? Well,
go back and watch the 20 minutes we spoke about it, Suhail. We did it. I've got the timestamp here. 5:19.
Yeah. Sire is asking, shall I sell Gordon and get Mbomo? I would personally. I think this is a move we should have made probably 2 weeks ago, and Mbomo hasn't done much since then. But I still think he's a fantastic pick, and for very similar reasons as Stu mentioned earlier, I think this is a transfer I would still probably do.
I don't like Rodgers to Nwanieri. I like Rodgers to Bournemouth mids. Bournemouth.
Brian is asking, move slot to Arteta, go for table bonus Ipswich Leicester. I think going for Arteta is probably the safest move. But if you're chasing, you can go for the table bonus. It depends on where you're at. If you're chasing rank, if you're chasing in a mini lead, or if you're leading, I would probably do the Arteta move if funds aren't an issue.
Go Palace, Brian. He might, as long as Villa don't win.
Was their best pick for Gakpo replacement? We did discuss forwards. We ranked our favorite forwards. CH. We discussed Cunha, Marmoush, Mateta, Wissa, all those guys.
Yeah, we did it between 19 and 26 minutes. I've been noting them down.
Fantastic work, Shani. Excellent work. Excellent work there. Nabadeep is asking, is it necessary to transfer slot? Thoughts? I think I'm in a very similar position. I think a lot of people will be in this position where, they will have so many issues, pressing issues to address in their team that they may think that, selling slot, especially for a hit, is something that is not optimal. Again, it depends on the issues you have in your team. I think selling slot is probably the right thing to do, but it depends on the number of issues you have in your team.
Yeah. Should I sell Luis Diaz or keep him, says Jack. Keep.
All right, next question.
Let's see.
This will be the final question. We're into the final minute. Final question is from Zali Ayer. Start Robinson or Kirkes for GW26. I think this is a really tough one. I would imagine the bookies odds to be very similar. I would probably lean towards Robinson, especially if Eze is a bit of a doubt. I would fancy Robinson in that fixture personally.
Yeah, cool. Agreed. Thank you, guys. We love you in the chat. Thank you for all your comments. On the way out,
thank you for joining in.
Hitting the buttons, like, subscribes, drop a question in the chat. Our producers will, I'm sure, be on top of that to reply if you've got any questions. And we'll be doing on Friday. BigMan, we'll probably be doing a bit of a deadline on Friday. Again, it will be like an early deadline show around, I guess, 2 o'clock. So yeah, come back for that.
Exactly.
Nice. All right, guys, it'll be fun on Friday. Do not miss that one. And we'll see you very soon for another video. Bye-bye.